Thank you so much, Dr. Bright. That was an amazing session. If I can just ask the two of you to come back on screen, put your cameras on, because we're about to go into the Q&A. I can see quite a number of questions, and I'd like the two of you to support each other answering these questions. We have about 20 minutes to answer the questions, and we'll try and answer them as much as possible. Let's make them short and sweet so that we're able to cover as many questions as possible. Some amazing things that I learned from your quick presentation. I always say I'm never too shy to learn something new. It's important to prioritize any kind of attacks that you may get. I think time is of essence. You talked about quick turnarounds, and sometimes that may not be humanly possible. So automation is key to this whole CTI situation. So I will hand over to the two of you. Please go through the Q&A, and let's try and cover as much as we can. I see a lot of interest in the session, and I can see people are asking if we're going to share the presentations. I think we will have to share the presentations, but please go through the questions. I'll let you know as we're running out of time. We have about 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. What do we start with?
Start from the top.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first one is, with consultants working with people, can they create a platform to share the CI without disclosing the identity? That's for Fred.
Yeah, it's possible, but there are options that are out there. Open source solutions are out there, but the challenge is the platform will be there, but how many organizations will buy into sharing the information at the high level? So that's about to speak most organizations. No one is willing to share the information. Maybe they require a board to prove, but if the board, know that you are going to share such information, even if at a high level, some system of trust. So when we have platforms can be able to be set up.
Okay, this next question is about what happens with zero-day attacks. Can CI be proactive? Is that for Fred or that's for me?
AI can AI effectively, efficiently? Okay.
No, for 0 day.
So we can be able to tap.
That is for about 0-day attacks.
Go ahead.
Okay. The question for Rin Chebet. Hello, Bright. Can malware attack be traced over a traceroute? A traceroute is 0.1% of tracing an IP address. Most of the time, you're not going to come up with anything. So I wouldn't say that is that alone cannot work. So you need more than just traceroutes. Okay, let me take the next one. I understand KBA was in the process of getting the banking sector to share threat intelligence. Okay, not for me. I don't know really. So that would be Fred. Is that true? But we don't have that information with us. So that would be for Fred. Do you have any information about that? KBA in the process of getting banking sector to share threat intelligence?
There was a time they were trying to set up one, but I think a few banks were able to trade. But the problem was the issue of trust, because for banks, these are private businesses, and until you set up a system, there was a time that banks were trying to do that, but the challenge was the system of trust between the banks, because these are private businesses, but they are going into sharing some of the threat information. How do you know if Bank A share their information even at a high level with Bank B? They are not going to use that information against them to even steal their customers. So in this case, I think they are still in that process. It might take longer, but eventually they will be able to get it.
Next question: what's your take on recent public information about an attack on a SACCO from an ethical perspective? I wouldn't say it's credible. We don't know exactly. The SACCO did not come out and say they've been attacked. People write blogs, people publish information, and until that is credible, I don't think the public should take that as a very serious thing until somebody confidentially says that they have been hacked and this is what has happened to them or has done a public disclosure. So we need to be very careful about the kind of information we get when it comes to that. Should countries or industries start combating cyber threat from from ecosystems level 2, or I believe the person just from trying to say from. Yes, there has to be that. That's where the whole sharing of information comes in, that do public disclosures and be able to plug in into various systems that exist. For example, like Internet Solutions, I know Internet Solutions with a few others, and also I forgot the name. They share all this information that the government has already plugged in, and they pick some of those details out. To expound on EDR for cloud solutions, EDR is already a cloud solution, so it's not even on premise, and it's agent based, so it gets to be you can deploy on an entire network without having to physically go to any of them. And also, when you deploy, you can deploy on the cloud system, and you'll be able to get to see everything from one place you have. Do we have enough capacity of cyber professionals or companies to correctly deploy a SOC, leave alone a SOAR? Yes, we do. And the thing is, when you're doing a SOAR or even a SOC, you're not going to build alone. The kind of technology that you're using is going to come from somebody who, whichever you want to use. There's SOARs, there's one called Demisto from Palo Alto, you get to get D3. There are quite a number of SOARs. Even EDR, you have to get somebody who will effectively help you to install. So you're not the only person who's going to just install and leave. Capacity-wise, there are enough skill set in Kenya right now who can actually intelligently go through that. I personally had to go through training for some SOARs, and it was not easy, but it was quite interesting for the list to say. How effective are data blockers when it comes to preventing malware infections? This especially when it comes to using public USB charging ports. The USB charging ports that we see, I've not done enough research on them to be sure that they're actually blocking anything, but that is publicly available. I don't like using them myself. I'm pretty scared because of the things that I know I can do with publicly available charging blocks. So you need to get just another device, and I wish I could show that right now. It's a small USB that gets to reach between you and the USB. So when you're charging, it doesn't get to affect you. As an SMB with limited budget, where do I start to be proactive against cyber attacks? I tell people, don't go buy so many tools. Like Fred has shown you, there are free open source applications that are out, which you can use to start to be proactive. But the most important thing is to be able to have your processes being defined. If you don't have the processes being defined, you will not be able to tackle. You can't tackle cyber resilience. So identifying what resources you have, what tools you have, and what's the budget as well, and you go for a few. You go for open source applications. Fred, you're saying something?
I wanted to say something. Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to just there is this on the fileless malware. These are malware somehow. When they infect, let's say your machine, maybe your server, they may not even touch the hard drive. So there's not any write and read from the hard drives. So the antivirus and maybe EDR that you are using may not be able to detect. In this case, this is where now you build capacity in terms of indicators of attack. So you get it, you start from the network level. Because before someone injects something into the memory, which will not be written into the hard drive, they must have had some persistence in the network. They must have opened some more ports on the networks. This is now where you build capacity in terms of indicators of attack. It is a very complicated process, but with time, the more you practice as an IT team, the better it becomes for you. Also on the issue of the ethics, in terms of sharing information on Circle, this is very wrong, because you will find that whoever is sharing, this is someone who is somehow influential in the industry. But I would ask, what is the motive of me just sharing something on social media? So is it that I want to ridicule whoever are working in those organizations, or I want to provide a solution? Because we find so much information when we are working, especially on cyber incidents, but we don't go publishing such information at some alarming statements. So in my case, my opinion is It's somehow unethical.
If I take to answer Alim's fileless malware, a fileless malware leverages on other tools that are already existing that you're using. So, like I said, it tries to run in memory, and EDRs will be able to actually detect what is running in memory rather than just, so it sees the multiple processes that is the malware is trying to even change to, rather than just what is touching the disk. Alan is asking, there's also XDR. How different is that from EDR? And XDR looks a little bit further more than EDR on the network point of view as well. But most EDRs right now are working the same way with XDR. Endpoint and EDR, endpoint is signature based, is just to see the traditional antiviruses, but EDR is a bit more detail on that. How do you detect malware that use antivirus as that use your antivirus as persistence? Okay, I don't know how I'm going to answer that really, but the malware, I mean, the malware behavior is a behavioral analysis that is trying to be used to be able to detect whatever is happening, and that's what the EDR gets to do. So from changing processes, from the kind of data that is trying to, the kind of commands that is trying to run, and all of those is what it tries to use to detect that. Can SOA manage file modification and memory attacks? Yes, it can do that. Please reshare the Gartner matrix on endpoint security solutions. I need a quick screen grab. Or we'll share the PowerPoint presentation with you so you can actually get to do that. How accurate are the tools in a SIEM SOA? In a SIEM tools, this SIEM SOA, do they have an error of accuracy as one shift from one tool to the other? So the thing is, when it comes to SOA, you're doing there's a lot of playbooks that have to be written. So there are existing playbooks that are there, but as time goes on, you have different scenarios that are there. So you keep on doing different scenario based where the playbooks get to be written. And the SOAs are very configurable. It's like a programming language, basically saying that if I get to see an SMB attack on this network share and it's doing 1, 2, 3, 4, I want it to be able to correlate that information, share with another system, be able to, or if, let's say a phishing attack has come in, download the attachment file, upload it to VirusTotal, bring it back, analyze, give us the results, and then we can work with it. So you're not expecting it to, I mean, help it to, it's not stopping everything from happening if you don't have that part added, but it helps to be able to quickly respond to that. Does Internet Solutions have any threat intelligence capabilities that clients can make use of on a month-to-month basis rather than investing their own capital? Yes, we do have. You can see it for that after this. Reliance on threat feeds and signatures, however, introduces gaps in visibility and erroneous alerts. How do you reduce false positives in a SOC solution? That is the thing. That's where the indicators of compromise have to be either done properly, or this is where the SOA helps you to be able to reduce, to separate signal from noise. So you have 1,000 and 1,000,001 alerts. There's intelligence system. That's where the intelligence comes in to be able to separate that and make sure that you can actually reduce all that 1,000 events to, let's say, 2. So the whole point is not to go through the 1,000 events that have come in or alerts, but you want to minimize to say 1 or 2. This is quite some heavy investment on risk management. How do you measure ROI for board presentation? That will be based on the number of incidents you have, how much you've been able to remediate, and also the amount of time and resources that you have used to be able to remediate such incidents. How confident are you in
Bright and Fred?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, because the questions are very many, we've been granted another 10 minutes.
Okay.
By the audience.
Okay.
So I want us to finish by 10 after 4. Please try and balance the answering of the questions between the two of you.
Okay.
Okay. So there's John Matiko had asked. John Matiko had asked about AI. What part of AI play to curb cyber threats? So in this case, the AI will efficiently analyze the user's behaviors. It will help to deduce a specific pattern. It will also identify all sorts of abnormalities within your network or any irregularities that you have in the network. And with such information, and with the information being available, it is much easier now to be able to identify a cyber risk rather than going manually, doing it by yourself. We had an example sometimes. An organization was compromised. Then we went to check on the Kaspersky antivirus in this case. And the funny thing is that Kaspersky was able to detect that there was a share which was being uploaded into the network, but it did not stop. So in such a case, if they have deployed AI, it could have maybe initiated some other processes which eventually could have resulted into blocking that specific attack.
Okay. Then I'm seeing which other one here? Employing a security specialist versus outsourcing managed security services. It depends on the capacity and the amount of work that you have to do. Sometimes organizations have 2 engineers, but they lack one extra kind of skill sets. They outsource those. So you don't have to. You can hire a few people and then you outsource the ones that you don't have. If you don't, so I see a lot of organizations have a CISO, and the CISO have one security engineer, but they outsource other things like somebody who can do pen testing and the likes, because they don't want to have all that burden on them. There's a lot of organizations that take up solutions because they have been rated by Gartner. What are your thoughts about this? Some solutions that actually work are not listed. That is a very good question, and I recently had an issue with a company that came in as an EDR. They claimed they're an EDR, and I tested about 5 attack types, and they all went through. Even the simplest of attack that I was expecting to be caught went through. And I was asking them, how do you consider this as an EDR when all attacks are going through? So you have to make sure you do a lot of reading, a lot of testing, and don't just buy because somebody has told you that, okay, so Gartner. I don't just buy solutions. Make sure you test them thoroughly and ask the right questions before you get to take them up.
So I see Zeke is saying that most organizations in Kenya assume they are not prone to cyber threats and fail to deploy security measures. How do we convince them that cyber security threats are imminent? I think in this case, there's a lot of awareness. Dr. Bright and others, as everyone else is doing all this sort of awareness. But now the problem is you can only do awareness, but you cannot convince them. So at the moment, I think when an organization become a victim of a cyber risk, that is now like a wake-up call. At most of our customers, we have gotten them after they have been compromised. But before they become a victim, if you try to tell them about cyber, it is viewed as a cost center, because you cannot actually measure the return on investment on security. So in most of the cases, when they have been compromised and the threat is out there, the data is out there, they are going to be able to use any financial amount that you tell them. So in this case, awareness, and capacity building.
I think it's important to also to show numbers. A lot of business and entities or board level executives don't understand the technical terms. So you have to show them numbers and show them some sort of indicators saying that if this happens to us, this amount of money we're likely to lose, downtimes, and the kind of effective, and also benchmark them against their peers in the market or who have been compromised in other countries and what happened to them. So it's good to give all those examples and also do a live demonstration and hack them if they have to. It helps to build that up. What technology do you use to mitigate SQL injection? It's a programming kind of way to do it. There's so many tools. They can use a WAF, but that is more on a level of coding. So that has to be looked into. Laura, there's a question for you there.
I will answer my question when I'm closing. So you guys.
Okay. So also Amos.
The questions are done.
Amos has also asked. This is quite some heavy investment on risk management. How do you measure return on investment for board presentation? Earlier on, back in 2011, 2012, we had struggle around this, but we came around across return on security investment, not return on investment. So when you come to return on security investment, you do not measure the benefit that you get if you buy a firewall, because the benefit is not visible. You cannot, it's not tangible. But what happens when you have the firewall in place, it is going to give you some peace of mind as an organization. Then you take into consideration that assume if the mail server is compromised for a day, how much money do you start to lose in terms of transaction of the business? It's not even tangible cash. So when you have this information and knowledge, so when you go to the board to present, try to quantify the risk into some financial amount. Tell them, if the mail server goes down for a day, we are going to lose 100,000. Then they will ask you, how have you arrived at that 100,000? Then after you demonstrate to them, then tell them, if we invest in EDR, we are going to reduce this risk, because for risk you manage them. You do not actually like remove them completely. So if we invest in EDR, we are going to reduce the risk to 20,000 shekels, and they are going now to listen when you speak their language. Unfortunately for us technical, we do not know how to speak the business language when we go to the board. So they do not even buy in to whatever we are trying to discuss with them.
Okay, I think we are done with the questions, but I see one has just popped in from Alex Sankeo. I hope we have answered all the rest.
Yeah, what would you suggest a strategy to secure national critical infrastructure, mainly ICS and SCADA? ICS and SCADA systems, first of all, they have to make sure that all of those systems are not publicly available, and some sort of control has to be put in terms of what is being used inside. And ICS SCADA have its own security testing methodologies that has to be done, and I would say they have to be tested frequently. And in the line of IoT and the likes, because if you use something like, say, Shodan, or Sensis or Zoomai, or a search engine, you should be able to see some of those systems. So they have to test thoroughly to see that, to make sure the systems are not publicly available. Nobody can actually control them, can see them from outside, and most importantly, access control mechanisms to be put in place.
Okay, I see two more questions again. One from Amarjit and another one from Kelvin. And then we can close after that and continue the conversation online.
Do these solutions manage parent-child process management, where attackers inject their shell code into child processes from legitimate parent processes? I see what you're doing there, Amarjit. Well, antivirus evasion or EDR evasion, I would say an EDR should be able to stop that because of behavior. But for child processes being injected too, it's quite difficult to be able to detect that. And that is why we have some files that are 0-day. But the first one might actually get through, but the second part of it, which is supposed to activate further attacks, might get caught, most probably. And how confident are you in our ability, Kenya, to tackle issues to deal with compromised accounts and cyber attacks? I'm pretty confident because there's a lot of awareness right now. We were not, where we were 5 years ago is not the same as we were right now. And also is good to know that there are institutions such as ICRAL who are training people, and there's so many guys who are coming right now becoming cyber engineers. And you can see there's so many WhatsApp groups that are forming up. People are becoming cyber experts, and what CIO is doing right now, you can see that this kind of conversation was not there a few years.
Good. So, Fred, can I ask you to put your camera on again so that the audience can see you as I close off? So, as I close off, Amos, thank you for your question. Yes, we can definitely convene a CIO webinar for SACCOs. What we need to do is, I don't know, Amos, if you have my email address, you can drop me an email at laura.chite@cio.co.ke, and then let's have a further discussion on that, on the various topics we'd like to explore and how we can position the SACCO session. I'll just put it in the chat window. On behalf of CIO East Africa, thank you so much to our two presenters. I think you are wonderful. There was a lot of learning today, and this is why we've gone over time. Thank you for taking the time to prepare. Thank you for sacrificing your time. And we look forward to having you guys here again. To my audience, thank you so much for being such a fantastic, patient, engaging audience. I love it when I see the conversation going on. It means that we are enjoying the content, we are listening, we are not bored. Sometimes it can be very difficult to sit online for an hour when you're not the one speaking or typing emails or something like that. We do appreciate your time. We do look forward to you joining us next Tuesday, and the registration details are on our site. If you just go to where you registered for this webinar, next Tuesday, our topic will be on accelerating Africa's data protection laws and governance. I think that's a very hot topic. There's issues around how we are handling data, especially right now. So let's look at joining for that session. We're going to have John Omo, the Secretary General for ATU, deliver that session. So please come ready with your questions, ready to engage. And we hope we shall have a productive session like today. Thank you once again. Have a fantastic evening, and we shall see you next week, Tuesday. Take care. Bye.